So there, I hit the gavel. Our working session's in session, I guess.
So closed session or a working session?
Working session.
Working session.
Budget session.
Yes.
Okay.
Someone gonna make a presentation?
I was going to ask if I may have the floor.
I wish you would. Please proceed.
So I realize that, this is our initial budget. So this is the first request, if you will, from all of management. Director Moga and I have met with everyone. We've been through the budget a second time. We are still following up with some of the managers to get additional changes. So most certainly this will come down. But this is the initial presentation of the budget. So we will, at the next meeting, so the September 13th meeting, we will have a high overview of where the major increases are and what they are, so that you have that understanding. Most certainly, we can set additional working sessions after the 13th if the board desires to do that. Once you've had more time to kind of digest that higher level information. And again, Mr. Moga and I will do our best to get that out to you as soon as possible, so you have ample time to go through everything. I do want to just touch base on, we're still hoping for a special session. I know that there's little hope, but if we were to receive that special session, we have that $1.5 million sales tax request for the jail. Also, the program aid would make a significant difference for Winona County, getting approximately 81,000 less in program aid versus if they do the special session, we could get, potentially 278,000 more. So that would definitely help our situation for our budget.
Do we have enough time, excuse me for interrupting, do we have enough time if the special session happens relatively soon to get it on the referendum ballot in November? Or would we have to have a special ballot next spring or something?
I'm
That would probably be auditor treasurer, but I'm wondering if there would be enough time at this point, and especially we're into September almost.
We probably ought to ask the question just to know what the dates are. I mean, I'm not going to hold my breath on it. Let's put
It
it
would
that
be a short, we got to do a PR campaign of why we need this too.
way. We can't promote it though.
I'm not sure that we can.
I don't think legally we can.
We have to discuss it.
We have to
provide
discuss it.
data.
Yeah,
Well, right, but I don't think we
Yeah.
can have a campaign. to
that's
promote
true. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Bad choice of
We
words.
can't promote it. I mean,
Bad choice of
I don't
words.
think that's
But
allowed.
we do have to explain it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Well, they won't know what they're voting on unless we
Right,
give
they
them
won't.
ample
Yeah.
information.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
So, Mr. Moga will follow up with.
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I guess what would be the date to get it on the November ballot? And then failing that, is it possible to have a special session? Or are we,
What does that cost?
Well, assuming Commissioner, big assumption, Commissioner Jacob wins his election for a higher office,
I think
we
it's
would have a special election in like May.
Who's
Somebody answer? Can somebody give us?
Kay Queller? No.
No.
yeah, I think that's actually a pretty smart idea, yeah.
That's true.
Even if the legislators went
That's
back
true.
in
We'd have
early.
at least 2 issues on the ballot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's
Yeah.
just something.
Yep, I mean,
I don't think it's gonna be a special session.
I don't either, but
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I said a prayer too, so hopefully.
And unfortunately, even
Handles.
the session in 2023, does it start in January?
February?
Yes.
I mean,
January?
how quick they
Yeah.
would possibly take action that would allow us even to do something on.
Or would it
on
wait
May.
till the end to an omnibus,
Well,
but really, I mean,
unless-
just like that.
And, we had support from
That's
both
true.
Miller and
Of course we
Pulaski.
did, yes.
And I mean.
Oh, and they
could
were
we
like-
move it- Could we move it up to a single standing issue?
Yeah,
and
instead
get
of-
a
Well,
vote and-
Because there were like 12, the day that I testified, there were like 12 other municipalities that were there asking
we're
for the
not
same
only
thing.
one.
No,
Yeah. And, there's no financing for them, so it's not a cost bill.
yeah, well,
Okay, so Ms. Holt, you'll get us answers. Thank you.
And pray for us to, we can all donate
Okay.
to that.
So in the packet, we do have an estimated fund reserves for the end of 12 for December 2023. Again, that's projecting what we would potentially utilize in 2022, 2023 budget. So that's just to give you an idea of what we would project as our reserve balance.
So that's the 302,000, that's the unrestricted, or is that both?
What I was just gonna mention is on page, is it 13? That's actually using the numbers that are presently in the budget. It's not with any reductions that, department heads that might have given at that point. And looking at the 312s is the 12.2 million.
Yeah.
Using the numbers that are presently in the budget, we would be below the 312s because it's at 11.2 million.
So if this amount stays current, then we would have to change our policy or just,
Yeah, because we would be below what our policy is, so we wouldn't be following our policy. I mean, if we left it just as status quo with no changes at that point, that's where we would be below our policy of the 312s.
So what you're saying is we have no reserve to put toward the 2023 budget.
If we don't actually
Reduce.
do any reductions, if we
Okay.
just left it just as is, but Ms. Holte and myself are actually working
Yeah.
on that to bring those numbers down.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
with the hopes that would, reduce that amount. And this is also, it's based on all the things that Winona will talk about, the things that haven't actually occurred yet.
Yeah, but I don't think that I would be in support of changing our 312 policy.
right? That's the
I
other
thought we
thing.
were.
And that's what all our bond rating and everything was
Yeah.
based
Yeah,
on.
that was our-
Yeah.
But I mean, that just-
so to speak.
if you didn't make any changes.
Oh, just say if there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Right.
But all you need is 12 million.
We need 12.2 million.
12.2, so you need another.
And that's where you're just riding right on the edge.
So we can reduce expenses some.
So this
That-
is,
And didn't we reduce, I'm sorry, we laid off jail staff. We have positions we haven't filled. That's got to attribute to, and, yes, we budgeted everything, but didn't somebody not spend some dollars yet that could go into that factor?
so that's what Pat and I are analyzing. So as far as this spreadsheet that Mr. Moga has presented,
Page 13, yeah.
yes, this is assuming that the budget we put in here in the working session here is what we would be spending. We're not going to be proposing exactly what's in this budget right now. Mr. Moga and I are working to reduce that. So we fully anticipate that you're going to have your reserves here. You're going to meet your policy. Okay, this is just that initial request. But we wanted you to understand the impact to reserves had the board accepted that.
Yep. I do just want to sort of reiterate what Commissioner Ward said, in that I would be interested in knowing sort of what, I understand there's a 5% increase in healthcare. I would have assumed we would have budgeted for our capital request. So yeah, kind of like looking for where we got off track is kind of what I'm interested in knowing that. And I think that is what you were saying, isn't it, Marcia?
Well, yeah,
Okay.
and there should be some money that we didn't spend because we didn't have the people in the seats. There's savings right there. There's insurance savings, there's payroll savings.
But we
there's-
also budgeted not to have them.
Yeah. Mhm.
So
Gotcha.
that's where we're not going to see a dollar. for
Yeah, I don't
dollar.
remember budgeting less in jail staff last year. I don't remember that as
This year
part of the
for
discussion.
2022.
No,
We took those positions out. And if we were to look back at the information from Mr. Fritz, those positions were removed from the budget for 2022.
I remember that there was an assumed sort of a risk, the risk is what if we don't get the levy? What if this happens? What if that happens? And yeah, so, okay, we spun that wheel and, yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, really, that was last year's budget, and we pulled those savings out, and those savings really kind of took places where things were actually increasing.
And what about all the ARPA money and stuff? We kept some of that for internal usage.
Yep, those are designated for the projects that were on our list that the board.
But didn't we
authorized.
keep some for our own
Yes.
expenses?
Yeah, we actually, with the CARES money that we actually had spent, there were some wages that were for staff.
Yeah, right.
And we went through the audit last year, and I don't have the exact amount, but I'm thinking we transferred like between 800 and 900,000 back into the general fund because we had gone through the audit, and that's how much really we had left after the audit had occurred. So those actually went into the general fund reserve. Those were transferred by resolution back in last year, I think, back into the general fund.
No, I'm talking this year. We took money, we took CARES money and we had ARPA money. I thought we kept some for these unrelated expenses.
I think it's that 495,000 that we were going to use, because that's what the deficit was for this year. And we were going to, but we don't know those numbers at this point, because we won't know until the end of the year how much staff have cost in the two areas, which was emergency management and public health. So at the end of the year, we'll be able to see if we spent over, and then we can claim those against ARPA dollars, and then we get those dollars back into that general fund. Or, yeah, general fund, or I guess human services, because.
But Commissioner Ward, you're correct. There was about $495,000 that was allocated for those expenses. And that was the shortage for 2022 that was anticipated to use the ARPA money.
Oh, by the way, can you guys hear me since I don't have a mic here? Do you guys want me to go up to the?
No, I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay.
I don't know if we-
Are we recording the
Or did it-
session or
It is recorded, yes.
do we need?
I don't like what I'm hearing, but
Yeah, but it is recorded.
Well, if you want me to come up, just let me know the next time if you want me to.
Yeah. Okay. So how many more pots of magic money do you have?
Yeah. Do we have any? Do we have some?
Well, the federal government has all kinds of pots of money. The state government has all kinds of pots of money. Where's the county's pots of money?
it's in your purse in my pocket.
I know, it just doesn't seem fair and equitable that we have to talk about raising. Of course, lots of taxes have gotten raised and people don't realize
Mhm.
it on federal and state levels.
And sizes of packaging got changed too, so.
Anyway, so
Okay, so the next couple of pages are the capital requests, so page 14 and 15. And we can ignore page 15 because that was the original one.
Mhm.
And so page 14 is the modified one, which reflects the discussion with the highway engineer, Mr. Kramer, where he shared what he would prefer if we need to make a reduction in their department. I will share that Mr. Moga has had communication with the sheriff's department, and we have agreed to remove the $40,000 for the command vehicle, the ERT. So that will be coming out of the budget. So
Okay.
just as informational that has been.
and can I confirm what you just said though? So 14 is the revision. And so under gas pump is 1, loader is 2, snow plow truck is 3. That's an order of preference if we have to cut something.
Right,
That
Mr. Moga?
was actually, provided by the engineer.
Yep.
Of his preference of how we would cut them.
Yeah.
Now, the board can, decide to do something different than that also.
Yeah, but he did say that when he
Yeah,
was here.
that was his
Yeah, he said-
recommendation. That was the gas
Said he
pump, the
preferred-
loader, and then the snow plow would be the number 3.
That's 3 in priority, number of priority.
Yeah, it's not.
Gas pump is priority number 1.
Yep.
It's not-
No, I get it.
Not 3 gas pumps.
that'd be-
No. But
Quite
as
a
far
discussion
as,
about the boiler at the LEC.
Yeah, we did.
Did we come to any conclusions on the boiler at LEC, 350,000?
Okay, so Pat, you or Chris have to stand up and move around every now and then.
Like, doesn't he want to come on?
Otherwise, we're in the dark.
Yeah.
which, You know, that's,
Help in the 22 budget.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly.
Now, that brings another issue. Yeah, aren't we supposed to be saving all kinds of money on our electricity and everything? Because we did that buying years ago of,
Of what Honeywell, do you mean, or?
no, didn't we buy
garden.
into a solar?
Solar garden.
Yeah. What's the story on that? We're supposed to be saving all kinds of money by now.
Yeah.
Sun shining today.
We are seeing some savings, but the hard thing about that in the budget is we would get the credit will be applied to the invoice, but so it doesn't show up on a regular basis. Like electricity, it's really low, but once that credit is, because what we have to pay is a different vendor, and then Excel gives us the credit, so really, we're not seeing the reflection in the budget at this point until that invoice we settle up. That makes
When,
sense?
and when would we settle up? I mean, are we talking $100 or $10,000 or what are we talking about? Do
The
you have any
credit,
idea? Yeah. you
yeah,
have any idea?
I don't have the exact number, but it's more than $100. It's bigger than that. I can get some data,
But less than $1 million.
less than $1 million.
Yeah.
Well,
I can get some data. We have
over the
person in
years, it would be
finance that is
more. but-
tracking,
will
like
increase.
what we're being charged and what we're getting credits. So I can have the person provide that to Ms. Holte, and then we can forward that on.
Well, before we leave the capital request, it's my opinion that all three of the highway department items are high priority. We've cut snow plows as often as we could in the past. I don't feel we should be cutting snow plows anymore. I think that needs to stay on the schedule it's on.
I tend to.
And Dave,
agree. Yeah.
Dave has just made it clear that he needs that loader.
Yeah.
That's why he put it at a higher priority than the plow truck. There were years where we were buying 2, 3 or more plow trucks to go to less than one. We need one a year. We need one a year to have a 12-year turnover.
Well, I tend to agree, and I know that anytime you get out of the sequence, because he gave us a sequence.
Mhm.
Yeah, anytime you get out of the sequence, you get into real trouble. And I have a problem asking our employees to do a safe and efficient job with not the right equipment. So I would support all three if we can squeeze it.
Yep, although at some point, something's got to go, so.
Yes.
So dropping down there, then the boiler, I thought we had quite a discussion that we were maybe gonna limp along. $350,000.
Yeah, I think that's where the discussion led was to.
Kind of hold off.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
mean, we got heat going into the new part. Open the door and let the heat in the old part.
Mhm.
Is the dispatch center in the old part or the new part? The new dispatch center.
It will be.
It will be in the new. Okay.
So I guess the question is this boiler, what part of the building is it going to
The old law enforcement center.
Right, which we don't know what we're gonna do with. Could become cold storage.
Well, the sheriff's offices will still be,
It's offices. Yeah, it's at least offices.
I just, I understand, but I mean, I just replaced 2 boilers in our 11-year-old Justice Center in Houston County at $55,000 and $65,000 each in the last 2 years, so. Over 350. But I know there's a lot of piping and, because, new boilers, old boilers where you take up this room and new ones would take up this chair. So I know so you gotta do a lot of piping to, I'm not questioning it, but it just seemed like an awful lot. I am questioning it.
A boiler is important, but if a boiler goes down, there are always alternative ways to heat in an emergency.
Well, for instance, we have redundancy at the Justice Center in Houston County. So we have 2 boilers. One breaks down, you have another one. There's 3 water heaters. One breaks down, you have another one.
I guess my thinking would be to, when we see how far you can get with reductions, that this be a, an option that we get to see, but then the full board can decide.
That sounds reasonable.
Maybe some clarity with Greg's comments that it just seems like a huge amount.
Yeah.
compared to-
We can follow up with Mr. Lefebvre.
I think he said it was because of piping and stuff, but
Yeah,
it still seems.
my understanding is they need to replace some of the ductwork and that kind of stuff.
Well,
And again, I'm not an expert in that area, so. But we'll get some clarification.
Would it be better to know what function some of those areas are gonna perform? I mean, if you put duct work in, and then it should be over here instead of over here, you've.
It would be another good reason to hold off on that boiler, see what we end up using that building for and how we end up using it. There might be, some other more efficient way to do things.
Still
I mean,
useful,
we're
but-
kind of banking on worst case scenario that old boiler goes down and can't be repaired, this year in particular. And worst case scenario would be some type of electric or temporary heat in there if that boiler, which, still be a possibility.
Breaking up the chairs and building fire.
Wool sweaters, wool socks.
Yeah.
Heat is a luxury, I tell my children.
As informational, we do have the first space analysis group meeting Wednesday or Thursday this week. So we're starting to analyze the space and what we need and what we can do to save.
Is this just for the LEC or is it?
No, countywide, all of the areas that we're using, renting, own, how are we using, like the jail, I mean, those buildings are gonna be part of that analysis of potential uses of space. As well as the areas that we're paying to store items, we're analyzing that as
You want a board member on that?
well. We have one. Like,
Moving down the list, then, Sheriff, repeater and radios. What kind of radios are we talking? Because there's talk at some of our multi-county meetings of state and federal monies to replace some of this stuff.
I don't have the actual sheet here. It was actually in the previous board packet, but what I remember it was 12 radios. It's a replacement of the initial radios that were purchased back probably about 5 years ago.
I would encourage us to look at all other
Yeah, it was-
sources of revenue for those.
It's 12 Motorola portable public safety radios, 2 base radios. The radios would replace the current cache of radios that emergency management has for use. Current radios are no longer supported, so they cannot be used.
and I do know that Mr. Klinger did apply for grant funding through the state and it did not.
Yeah.
Call Joe and say we need some of that infrastructure money. Because again, there's talk that there's other funds for some of that stuff. So if we can hold off and see if there really is other funds for infrastructure of that type. Because we're talking about lots of money spending on, armor and then upgrades to armor and all that stuff. And
I thought the legislature was supposed to pass a bill that would,
yeah, there was
and it
talk,
didn't happen.
right? So it's another one that maybe if we just hold off for a short period of time, we'll get their state money or federal money to do that. And I'm glad to see the command vehicle taken out of there. Now the transport vehicle for ERT, what's emergency response team, a transport vehicle? Is that
Like a-
was that dedicated to?
I think it's a trailer, to be
He
honest.
says
with you.
ERT has an old jail transport van that's currently out of commission. It has never worked very well. It was a hand-me-down from the jail. This is
Ben's comments,
This is Ron.
Ron's hand?
But why do
With an
we
adequate
even have it if
replacement-
it doesn't work? I mean,
Well, with an adequate replacement, the team could respond in one vehicle instead of some members being forced to respond in their personal vehicles or in multiple squad cars.
Okay.
Sounds like a need versus a want.
Yes.
Or a want
I
versus
put
a
a
need.
want.
Get
yes,
it
a
right
want.
there, yeah.
I agree with a
Almost right
want versus a need, because a lot of times these emergency response people, they're scattered around the county. They're not
Right.
gonna drive down here to drive
Right.
back out to the county.
Right.
So
So we'll scratch that.
I would question that. And if we got a vehicle sitting there
Well,
that isn't working, why do
and
we
what-
even have it?
We provide reimbursement for mileage.
Yeah.
So if you need to, if it's more convenient to use your own vehicle.
So do they do any group planning when they're in the car together on your way? I don't know.
They probably need those radios for that.
Yeah. Then if we don't have them in the same car, then they need the radios, yeah.
You know, I use a cell phone nowadays. It's not like we're out of commission, you know, and you're in a vehicle.
No,
but-
I just can't imagine in an emergency where it would make that much sense to have people from whatever area they're at first all come to one vehicle and then go together. I
Right.
mean, you should, wherever you're at, you should go to that emergency.
Yep.
I mean,
yeah,
it just seems like that would be a waste
maybe we need.
of very valuable.
And what's wrong with that van? Why are we even licensing it? And any, you know, seriously, there's cost to having it. There's insurance, there's licensing. Why do we even have that van?
Westlake, I think we agree maybe we should push back a little bit on that.
We'll
See if we can't get by
They were
without.
gonna get more information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we'll follow
Remind him he's running for reelection. He should.
I don't think he needs reminding. Yeah.
Any other discussion on the capital request?
Yeah, we grilled that over pretty good.
Can't wait for the outside agency.
Yeah, I know. It's just gonna get better from here.
Okay, so we supplied in the board packet, page 16 is the beginning. That lists the outside agency requests. 17, 18, 19 go into the same detail that we had in the previous packet, just gives you a little more information about which ones we have contracts for, whether, you know, there's detailed information provided and then some miscellaneous notes and a little bit about what each one of those are. And then I did include on page 20 and 21, an analysis that Administrator Fritz had supplied on September 10th. And that board packet is page 92 and 93 that I took those from. And I didn't want to like duplicate efforts, so I just took those and put in here. Because really it seemed to be the analysis that the board was asking for. So I thought that was kind of a good piece of information for you. Mr. Moga and I also did some research on starting on page 22, and that is the legal opinion from Tony Carnes. So that went through and analyzed what the board can legally do as far as giving money to entities.
I also noticed that it says that she advised that we lack a written policy and procedures and suggested that we should make one, and that was in 2017, so
Do we have
we
one?
didn't, did we? Did we? I didn't think so, no. Kind of think we should, maybe.
Yeah,
It seems like,
5 years later.
yeah, seems like that was good advice.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, the soil water is asking for about $4,000 more. I would like to give that to them. And I had called the city manager, and I did that because I was in attendance at a city council meeting last year, at which there was a presentation about the senior center and the senior advocacy services. Were you at that, Commissioner Kravesi?
No, but I remember the.
Oh, yeah, because some city council members were kind of adamant that we needed to pay our fair share. So what Mr. Ubel looked up is that they get some federal funding, and the county could accept those dollars if we wanted to do the services. But the services, of course, as with so many things, do not fully pay for the services. So that is why the city has chosen to do it. And then they make up the difference, but then, of course, they want some money from us. And he says, Again, this leads to our approach that if funding is reduced or at a minimum stays flat, the city would be forced to consider the services we provide throughout the county. And we don't say that in a threatening manner, only that in our travel and time costs, we would need to be reevaluated. So we wouldn't necessarily cut off resources to non-city residents, but the services may be cut back or reduced. Now, I do think those are fabulous services and I do want them to continue, which is why my preference would be that the county pay the portion that the city had documented that it actually costs. And
We have a list or a breakdown of who and what services they're providing. I thought I saw something somewhere. but-
we have had it in the past and so, and if, I mean, my thinking would be to leave it in for now. And if we need more information, ask them to come and talk to us.
Yeah, on page 18, there's the little blurb. They give advocacy and information and referral services, information and assistance regarding services and welfare checks on older adults. I would support the increased money for soil and water. First of all, it's only 4,000, and again, I think they're being asked to provide more and more services. They've proved that they can spread the best practices, and they're working hard on that. So, I can't see not giving them $4,000 extra $4,000 to be able to complete their tasks.
Didn't you,
Yep.
oh, I'm sorry,
I'm
but
done.
Maureen,
Yep.
didn't you put out your email today that we're gonna keep everything flat?
It's up to us, I think.
I know, but was that the consensus that we had kind of said before, that we're gonna keep our funding for outside requests flat?
Well, that is what is in the budget, right, Mr. Mogul?
Flat.
It's
Right.
flat. There are no increases for
Okay,
outside
so-
agencies in the budget
So
currently.
I'm asking for.
You're
The
asking for.
2022
okay.
budget amounts are what's in the budget for 2023. Yeah, okay. Please
So
go.
any increase that you put in, that's gonna make our deficit larger.
More, okay.
I get it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I get it.
okay, all right, my
But
confusion,
page
I thought
16
we
has the
agreed.
increases in it. Well, the requested.
Hmm?
I'm looking at page 16 then,
Yeah, what they requested, you can see in the 2023 column.
request.
Right.
But we're saying we're going to stay with the 2022 budget.
That's what we have in there right now.
So some of us have made a pitch for soil and water and for senior citizens.
Yes, senior advocate.
Some made a pitch for
Advocacy.
Semca, but not everybody voted for that.
Hey,
Well, then I have to ask Commissioner Jacob, who sits on the soil and water. And I thought a few years ago, you had a very good suggestion. If they need something to come back to us, what do they need the $4,000 for? Do they have a specific project or a definitive void in something that they need $4,000 for?
It's the same as every other organization on here. Cost of doing business goes up and they're
Personnel.
looking for a raise. So, if there was one on here that I would support, it would be soil and water getting their $4,000. But I can't, without opening a huge can of worms for us to start picking apart winners and losers on this. I'm afraid my position is going to be that we
I-
need to
you
just
know,
go
I-
flat across the board.
I'm feeling that we do have an extraordinary amount of pressure on our levy and our budget this year. I mean, it's double digits. And while I do support, 4,000 here, 4,000 there, but as Commissioner Jacob said, if we stay flat because we do, I could justify staying flat because we have an extraordinary amount of pressure on us this year on the budget. Where we have to make some hard decisions, and that would be a hard decision that I would have to make. And say, no more.
Now, there's a list that says if we have contracts and we get reports. Again, you've got too many pages here to keep track of it. For like one, I know like big brother, big sister. Did we get a report back what, because I remember last year, of course, we kept them flat, but I mean, I know they were going to look at expanding number of kids, such. Did we get any information?
Pat has,
Actually, I looked back at the payments that had come in, and we don't have any data from them back to 10 of 2018. I know that there's one agency that said they provided it in their packet for this year, but it was really for 21's data. And I said, really what we're looking for is more current data when we're actually making a payment to you, is to provide it even like on a quarterly basis. So we can attach that and have something to look at versus just when we're requesting for funds for the budget for the new year.
Well, and so with that too, to stay flat, but without a policy, I think we should come up with a policy. Is only makes sense. We do everything by policies. Some of the organizations here I've had some feedback from the citizens is, yes, we have a contract. How are we holding them to the quote letter of the contract? And then they do things outside the contract with grants that are hot button social issues.
Mhm.
And how do we, and we've been, as a county and as county board member, I've been accused, well, you give money to some of these groups and then they're doing things that are without the guidance of the county. It's part of their, freelance mission and whatever they do. So
Sort of up to their board.
how do we hold them to a dollar amount for the contract we're asking them to fulfill? I don't know. I don't have an answer, but I know a lot of people are getting pretty upset with the social agenda that some of these groups are pushing. And they do some of their work with county property tax dollars, and they do some with other grants and other sources of funding. I don't know what the answer is, but it's
So-
getting disturbing.
what would be the appropriate course of action to ask for the procedure to follow to ask for a policy? To do it as a request for board action, or can we do it at this working session? Can we make that request?
I think what Pat
Policy
was
has
talking
to be-
about, we need information ongoing versus just
Right.
at the end of the year.
And in the
we could
policy-
Put that in a
Yeah,
policy.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
No.
Yeah,
We
that's what
don't-
I'm
We
saying.
don't have it now.
So I'm in favor of asking for a policy that would
Yes.
help us with the guidance. I'm just saying, can we just do that by consensus here?
No, I don't think so.
It should be on a regular.
Okay, so we need a request for board action. Okay,
Just official and therefore there's follow.
terrific. Yep, okay.
And I don't look at this as picking winners and losers. I looked at soil and water. Where's this is to provide technical assistance to landowners and the county. So I mean, this is the cost of daily work for them. It's gone up. And, I would think that requesting only 4,000 more is their idea of being extremely, budget conscious. So of all of them, that's the one I could support. I do have,
They've gotten an opportunity with the 1-1 plans to enhance their revenue and enhance their workload and recapture some of their dollars.
They're also getting
They have
additional-
other resources other than county
Their main
budgets.
resource is the administration fees that are attached to every grant that they go after. And they have soil and water, I would say more staff than the board, have pushed repeatedly for many years to try to get the state legislature to give them some type of taxing authority. But that really runs contrary to how that organization was set up and how it has functioned successfully for 100 years now. Once they have taxing authority, then the incentive to go out and get the grants isn't there because you've got a job, and you're going to be there forever into perpetuity. Whereas if you have to go find a grant that has administration attached to it, so you get that administration fee to pay your staff, I mean, that's been why it's worked for so long. So they do have other ways to obtain more. They get more grants, they apply more practices to the ground, then they can either hire more staff or not hire more staff, but just the answer always being to give more money is hard for the taxpayer too.
So the unfortunate thing is that Daryl Buck, before he left, I had sent him to watch some League of Minnesota Cities webinars on how the ARPA money could be spent. And he and I had a conversation about how it could have been used to replace there was a small farm feedlot program. And that probably would have been sufficient, but he retired. And so then they were without a director or manager, whatever his title actually is. And so, that didn't happen, right? But it's unfortunate because they could have probably applied for and gotten some of the ARPA money to fill in for this need, but they were short-staffed.
Well, to me, soil and water, this is a direct service to our county citizens. A lot of these are prevention services, which, save money in the long run if they're done properly. But this one is a direct service. So I was gonna
So
make a
we
pitch
could
for the
take a-
library too.
We
so
could take
there
a
you go.
count of heads and then quit arguing about it, maybe.
Yeah, well, I'm okay with that, Greg.
I'm gonna say hold everything flat.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna say. That's my vote.
I vote for my two, for soil and water and for the senior advocacy services, but I'm keeping everything else flat.
What's your second one?
Senior advocacy
Oh,
services,
okay.
I would vote for soil and water.
otherwise flat.
Yeah, and that's reluctantly because there are some good programs there that we're missing, but
Well, I'd like to reduce it, but if holding flat is better than raising.
I think holding flat is a reduction. I mean, they can't, everything's, going up. But we're not gonna fund them up.
Right, but everything's going up and so is our county tax levy.
Yeah,
going
well,
up.
and that's right.
So we're holding flat.
So we're gonna hold them flat, so let's hold the levy flat.
Oh,
If we were to open the can of worms and do anything other than flat, I would be pushing to take funding away from the advocacy center. So by just leaving, we're just doing a package alone.
no, the county would have to provide those services because that's victims. Services.
So they're not mandated. I think that means people would go without the service.
It's a nice thing, but I don't think it's mandated. Yeah.
Life-saving in some cases, so.
Okay, what else do we have to achieve today?
So the other item that magic, the lights went on.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So I wanted to just touch base on the revenue recapture. I did ask Mr. Mulga to run a quick report just to kind of give us an idea of how we're doing. And happy to report.
Are we talking about revenue recapture on health and human services?
Correct. Yes. And that's the report you gave me, right?
It was all Fund 5 or helping.
Just want to make sure I'm saying it correctly. So we have an increase at the same time from 2021 to present to 2022 of increase of $286,000. So we are doing better so far this year. Again, we'll keep working on it, but it does take time. So just wanted to give that quick update on that. See, the other item wanted to just touch base on is, again, September 13th. We'll make sure we have the high level overview for you with enough information to understand where those things are. We'll have a proposed draft budget and proposed levy, most certainly totally open for board discussion, review, modifications. We can set additional working sessions if you so choose. Modify as the board desires. Otherwise, we will focus on setting up the preliminary levy to be approved at the September 27th meeting. And again, that's preliminary. That's not what it actually would end up at the end of the year. And we most certainly will continue to work with management.
May or
to
may
do
not
our
end up.
best. Excuse me?
May or may not end up being that at the end of the year.
Correct.
We hope it goes down.
Yeah. And that's our goal. Yeah.
Go down, but it can't go.
So I know that we do have closed session at 6:45. Is there anything that the board desires that Mr. Moga and I have not presented as far as budget?
I'll clarify, I think you said earlier, so you've asked department heads to go through and they're scrutinizing it, their budgets again.
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
Did we cut out like a board meal when we have to come in early like this, so I don't have to eat cookies for dinner?
Now we're balancing the budget.
We did allocate coffee money though.
Did we? Well,
Yeah, we brought
kind of
that
hoping
back.
for a little sandwich.
We have to eat Chris.
To bring your own.
It's not officially.
My
we
blood
didn't-
sugar's going up.
Well, yeah, those cookies aren't good for that.
I
Not at all.
diluting it with water.
Do you want me to call Paul and have him make you a sandwich
No.
and bring it in? That's what I do.
Bring him a veggie
15
platter.
minutes, you can run down it.
I like a little Beano sandwich once in a while.
All right, so are we taking a little break here? Are we done?
Yep.
We're on break?
Yep.
All right. All right. Well, that wasn't anywhere near as bad as I thought it would be.
Well,
It's grim. I think we've got the perfect storm or the worst
Verify with
storm
Heidi if
Yeah.
they're,
circumstances.
let you know in just a moment.
Sure do.
We can kick you out. We'll kick you out. Go sit outside. 15 minutes.
Go get Greg a sandwich.
yeah.
Cutting our budget.
And I'll provide that
That
tomorrow.
would be perfect. Thank you so much, Pat.
I got a sick kid. I got a sick kid.
Oh, Chrissy looks pale.
Be there, Chris.